Hello, this is MrChabry, and we're going to be doing a tier ranking video. So I've seen quite a few people doing this video style before, and I have done a video where I rank each starter Pokemon amongst their set. So I was thinking, let's go ahead and do a video where we rank every single starter and see where they are in terms of, in relation to one another. And I'm going to be doing this based on how good they are competitively. So with that out of the way, I think it's a good idea to go ahead and start right here with this Samurott. So Samurott is a terrible Pokemon. And I don't know if I need to explain this tiering for you. S is the best, E is the worst, everything in between is, in between. But yeah, we're going to put Samurott right here, right off of the bat. It is a terrible Pokemon. Its stats are not really that great. It doesn't do any one thing really well. It's got attack of 100. It's not the best attack. 108 special attack, that's its best stat. But the sad thing is, it's just not good at all. Move pool wise, it gets a few decent moves. Grass Knot for coverage. Hydro Pump most people go for, and Ice Beam, stuff like that. But other than that, that's really all it has is some special moves that it could run. But yeah, 108's not the best, and it doesn't have any other stats to back that up. It's got 70 speed, so it's slow. It's got 85 defense and 70 special defense. That's garbage. That is a garbage stat right there. 95 HP is pretty okay, but really there's no real reason to use this thing. It's just a terrible, terrible Pokemon. So we're going to go ahead and leave that on the E. The next one is Rillaboom. And I'm kind of doing this as I go along, so I don't know exactly if it's going to stay there, but I feel like I'm going to put this up in the A tier. Rillaboom is actually a really amazing Pokemon. This thing, even though it has the grass typing, it still is significantly a really good Pokemon, even with that. It's got 125 attack. Now that's a good attack stat. It does have 100 HP, which is pretty good too. 90 defense, and that's actually a pretty good defense stat. Looking at a lot of these Pokemon, that's a pretty good defense stat, especially with 100 HP. So it can do some stuff. 85 speed is actually pretty good too. This thing is got a pretty good speed stat at 85, so it's got a good spot that it's at. Special attack 60, you're not worrying about that with this thing though, because it's a physical attacker. 70 special defense, don't worry about it. This thing actually has some good moves that it can, use pretty well, and it's got an ability that actually takes advantage of one of those moves. So this thing can carry Grassy Surge as its ability, which is an ability that used to only be on Tapu Bulu, but now with this thing, it can do some Tapu Bulu stuff. And not only that, it's got the move Grassy Glide, which is a priority grass move if you've got the grassy terrain up and going, which means this thing doesn't even need to worry about that speed stat. It's got a good speed stat, but it doesn't even need to worry about that because that 125 attack's going to have a priority Grassy Glide. And on my Rillaboom, I like to put a Grassy Seed on it just because it gives it a little bit of a defense boost there, and I like that. I like that a lot. Next up is Torterra. Personally, I do like Torterra, but I do recognize that it's not a good Pokemon. So we'll put this in the D tier. Yeah, I think that's a good spot for it. We'll put it in D tier. I love this Pokemon, but I do have to recognize that it is kind of a garbage Pokemon. It's got a typing that's actually not the best combination-wise. Grass and Ground, meaning it's very weak to Ice-type moves. Ice-type moves just destroy this thing. And its stats are, it's got some okay-ish stats in certain places. 109 attack and 105 defense, 95 HP, so it can take physical hits, and it can dish out some damage, but it's pretty slow at 56 speed, and Yeah, the only thing it's got going for it is its ground typing, but there's so many other ground types that, you know, aren't held back by its grass typing. Yeah, this thing, I wish it was a better Pokemon, but I recognize that even though I really like this thing, it is not a good Pokemon. Next up is Dell Fox. I feel like I've got to put this one... I'll put this one in the C tier for right now. Dell Fox is a really cool Pokemon because of its typing. It's got a really interesting typing, Fire Psychic. And it does have some good special attack, 117. Actually, thinking about it, I might put it up to B because of that. It's got 114. Why did I say 117? 114 special attack and 104 speed. That is a really good speed stat there, and it's a good special attack stat. So... yeah, it's got some good things going for it. Fire Psychic's a really good type. It's got pretty good stab moves. You know, Flamethrower, Psychic, those are pretty good. And it does, you know, do quite a few things. It's got 100 special defense too, so it's not, you know, the frailest thing. 75 HP is not the best, you know, and 72 defense. That's going to hold it back and taking Sucker Punches. I think that's probably your biggest thing. But Dell Fox is a really good Pokemon, and it's just not good enough to go up higher than this. I might eventually put it down to C as we go along, but I really do like Dell Fox. Feraligatr, this thing, I do like this thing too. It's going to be somewhere in here. I don't feel comfortable in making it higher or on par with Dell Fox. So I'm going to put it in C for right now. This thing is a good Pokemon. It does have some good traits. It's got good attack. And it's got decent bulk too. 105 attack, 100 defense, 85 HP. So it does have decent stuff. 83 special defense too. It's got a pretty middle of the road speed stat at 78. So yeah, it's got some stuff that it can do, and most of the time, if you see this thing, you're not going to see it in Sword and Shield because it's actually not programmed into the game. But back in the day, when you saw this on someone's team, it's going to be doing one thing, and that is Dragon Dancing. It did one thing, and it did it pretty well. Dragon Dance, in Sun and Moon, it got Liquidation, so that's what most people ran on it. Before that, it was Waterfall. It also has some good coverage moves, Ice, Ice Fang, Ice. I think it gets Ice Punch too. I think it gets Ice Punch. Also, it gets Crunch. Crunch is a pretty good move. So yeah, it has some pretty decent things there. But I think the thing that holds it back is it only has one thing that it did well, and that was Dragon Dance. Oh, this one's going to hurt. So this is Typhlosion, and Typhlosion, even though I love it, even though I have to say it is my favorite Pokemon, I feel like it only can go into C. It might be able to inch up into B tier, but for right now we'll put it in C tier, top C tier. And that's because, just like Feraligatr, this thing only really does one thing. It does it pretty decently. So the thing that Typhlosion's got going for it is its speed stat and its special attack stat. And that's the main two things, but really that speed stat is pretty good too. 100 speed, 109 special attack. It's got some good stats, and the one thing that it does best is Eruption. So with that speed stat, if you slap a Choice Scarf on it and just go for an Eruption, you're going to be doing some good damage. The problem is, that's all it really does. It doesn't really get any other moves that really help it out. I would put Fire Blast on it, because how Eruption works is the power that it puts out actually gets reduced if your HP goes down. So yeah, your two moves that you're going to be having on your Typhlosion is Fire Blast and Eruption, and that's probably all that you're going to be using. Back during Z moves, I would put Solar Beam on it and use Grassy, like the Grassy Z move. That would catch off some bulky water types that try to switch in on it. It does get some decent move pull, as in, like, physical moves. It gets Flare Blitz and Wild Charge, but really those two moves aren't really helping it because of its 84 attack. So you're going to be using it for a special attack, and it's only got one thing that it does. So yeah. Next up is Sceptile, and this is actually an interesting Pokemon. I want to put it... See, a lot of these Pokemon are going to end up down here in either B or C. I don't know. I feel like... Okay, it's down here, and I would say it's probably best to say it's tied with Typhlosion. I'm going to put it up front because it does some things where, where Typhlosion only does one thing. Yeah, Sceptile actually has different things it can do pretty well. It's got a 120 speed, so that is a really fast Pokemon. 105 special attack, so this thing's going to hit things hard and hit things well. I'm actually going to put it behind Typhlosion because one thing that I feel like does hold it back is its grass typing. If you have a Mega Sceptile, it gains the Dragon typing, but that's not going to help you out because we don't have Megas anymore, and actually we don't even have... Well, we do have Sceptile and Sword and Shield. But yeah, it's a really fast Pokemon. A lot of people run stuff like Leaf Storm, I think. Dragon. It does get some good moves like Dragon Pulse. But I feel like there's a lot of Pokemon that are, better at doing what it wants to do as like a fast special attacker, and that grass typing holds it back. And yeah, so I feel like it's got to be in the middle of the road here. I mean, I think it does better than Feraligatr because Feraligatr can do one thing. This thing also has the Unburden ability, which, I mean, it's already a fast Pokemon, but if you put something on it like a grassy seed, some sort of seed like that, or a normal gym, and you pop that early on, it's going to be very fast, and I don't think there's really that much that can outrun it at that point. So yeah, it actually can do some stuff. Next up is Decidueye. This thing I'm kind of conflicted on because it does a few things, and it does those things pretty well. I don't know if it's B tier, though. But I don't feel comfortable in putting it C. So I will put it in the B tier, because it does some things pretty well. This is a Grass Ghost type, which is a pretty interesting type. And it does have a lot of cool things it can do. U-turn, it can U-turn pretty well. A lot of times you'll see these things running Defog. A lot of times I'll see them running Defog. So I just associate it with a Defog sets. Okay, so the thing with this thing is it does have pretty much good attack and good special attack. So you can run a special set, with Shadow Ball, Leaf Storm, Giga Drain, stuff like that, or you could use a physical set with Spirit Shackle. And most of the time, if I use this thing, I'll use it with Spirit Shackle because it's its signature move, so yeah. And it does have a little bit more in the attack stat. Also, Leaf Blade, I think that's what most people run on it too. So yeah, I feel like that's the set most people run. U-turn, Leaf Blade, Spirit Shackle if they want an offensive one. But the move I think I see the most is like U-turn Defog. And it does have 100 special defense, which is actually a pretty good special defense. So yeah, I feel okay with it in B tier. Empoleon, I'm going to stick up here in A tier. So this Pokemon has a really cool typing, Water Steel, and I actually don't think there's any other Water Steel at this point. Unless there's one that I'm just not thinking of. But yeah, this thing is a good, it's got some good bulk to it. 101 special defense. And a lot of times I see this thing as a defogger as well. It does have the Defiant ability, which, I mean, I guess it could work out in very specific situations. I've seen people use Defiant for specific things, because it has an 86 attack, but most people want it for the 111 special attack, which is actually a really good special attack stat. 60 speed is slow, but yeah, most people run this for a bulky Pokemon. It does get priority with Aqua Jet, and it does get some good moves like Hydro Pump, Flash Cannon. stuff like that. Ice Beam too for coverage. I feel like all the water types, they all have something ice type that they can run. And that's the cool thing about water types. And, you know, Empoleon's typing is really cool. I love this thing. I really wish that we get it back in Gen 8 because I love using this thing. So, the next Pokemon, as you see here, is Greninja. And that's going to go straight up to the S tier. There's no way I can put it lower than S tier. It's just a really versatile Pokemon. Most people run it for like a special attack Pokemon, but it can do other things as well. It's got a 122 speed, so that is fast, even faster than Sceptile. And it does have 103 special attack, so it's, I think, if I remember right, Sceptile had 105, so it's not the best, but it's got a huge move pool that it can work with. And the cool thing about that is its ability Protean. So since you're so fast, you're going to be changing your type before the opponent even attacks. So say your opponent has their own Sceptile out here, you just go Ice Beam, and now you're an Ice type. This thing is normally Water Dark, which is actually a pretty cool typing. But with Protean, you could be whatever typing that you want, or whatever typing that, you know, they can learn a move with. But yeah, Water Shuriken is its signature move, which is a multi-hit water type move, and that's pretty good. Back in Gen 7, we also had Ash Greninja, which was like super crazy. Like someone at Game Freak loved this Pokemon, and they were like, let's make it even better. So Ash Greninja has a 153 special attack. Now that is like Kyogre level special attack. 132 speed. And even a 145 physical attack. So with that, you could run pretty much whatever you want. But yeah, even a base Greninja's attack is 95. So I've seen some people run with that. Gunk Shot to change it to a poison type when facing a fairy type. I've seen people do stuff like that. But yeah, Greninja is an amazing Pokemon. This thing finds a home right here, S tier. It's not going any lower than that. Next up is Emboar, and I'm going to stick Emboar down here in D tier. I think it's actually better than Torterra. So the thing about Emboar is it also does one thing. It can pull it off pretty well, but most of the time you're going to have trouble pulling it off. And that is what I've seen people mostly use this for, is like a scarfed physical attacker. The weird thing is it's got a 65 speed, so it's super slow. And most of the time, if you've got a slow Pokemon, you're going to be trying to use it as like a bulkier set. But the most of the Emboars I see are, you know, scarfed, which I think is an odd thing, but that's because it does one thing well, and that is Flare Blitz. It gets the ability Reckless. So if you're able to hit a Flare Blitz, this thing has 123 attack. So if you are able to get a Flare Blitz with this thing, it's going to be doing a ton of damage. Nothing really wants to come in on a Flare Blitz from this guy. It also has the Fighting type. Most people I see running it uses, you know, mostly either fire or coverage moves. So it also gets Wild Charge. That can hit a water type that I don't know why someone would switch a water type, because it was pretty common knowledge that it often runs, you know, Wild Charge. So it was really hard to deal with unless you had something specific for it. A lot of times I see people run Choice Band too, and that was pretty good if you're able to, you know, get a hit. The thing about it though is, I mean, it's got a 110 HP. So when they designed this thing, they knew exactly what they wanted to do. They wanted it to hit Flare Blitz, Wild Charge, recoil moves, and they gave it Reckless, you know, as proof that that's what they wanted. But when they gave it so much HP, they kind of skimped out on its defenses. So it's got 65 in defense and special defense, which is a terrible defense stat. Even with that 110 HP, it is not living very many hits. So really, it only does one thing well, and that is Flare Blitz, recoil moves. But if it's not able to get those, well, then it's just a waste of space on your team. So yeah, Emboar, it can do some good stuff, but it's just man, it just gets held back by, you know, that its defenses. Next up is Swampert, and I feel like Swampert has a spot up here in A tier. I don't think it's better than Rillaboom, but I think it's pretty close here. Swampert is a really nice Pokemon. It's got good bulk. This thing, if you see this thing, more than likely they're using it as a bulky Pokemon or maybe even a tank. But yeah, that bulk is what most people are running it for. This thing has a 110 attack. That's a pretty good attack stat. 100 HP and 90 defenses. So both defenses. So that's a really good stat distribution. This thing, most people will put Stealth Rocks on it so they can set up stuff, you know, hazards. Most people also, some people will run it as an offensive, and it does get some pretty good moves. But yeah, it also had a Mega back in the day. Mega Swampert. A lot of people use that thing, I remember. It had Swift Swim, so even though it had a 70 speed, that was crazy under rain. It was crazy fast. So yeah, this thing is a really good Pokemon. It's got a lot of utility. It can run. It's got a lot of bulk. It can take a lot of hits. The only thing that it really is scared of is grass types, but I mean, you should have something that can handle a grass type on your team, because Swampert's not going to be the thing that you bring on to the team to do that with. Yeah, this is a Pokemon that has a spot in A tier. Meganium, it kind of pains me to put it down here, but competitively, it doesn't do much at all. I love this Pokemon. I would put it up here based on how much I love it, but competitively, it's just not good. It really doesn't have any stat amazing, which is sad. It's got 100 in both defenses, but that doesn't help because of an 80 HP. It's got a grass typing, which holds it back. Most people that use this thing use it as like a screen setter, so maybe light screen or for like, that's really the only thing that, you know, people try to run it with it. Sometimes you can see people try to run it for aromatherapy, but there's a lot more Pokemon that have aromatherapy that, you know, actually can do something after that, you know. This thing, it doesn't have enough attack. It's only got like 82, 83 in both attack stats. So it's not doing any damage, really. And it's not taking that many hits. So I'm sorry, Meganium, you're down here. Yeah, you're down there. Charizard. So Charizard's an interesting Pokemon because it has moved around in how good it is multiple times. At one time, it was probably up here, and then it went down here with Stealth Rocks, probably got down to here during Stealth Rocks. And then Heavy Duty Boots has brought it back up. Also, giving it a Mega has brought it back up too, but we don't have Megas anymore. So I feel like it should be in B tier. I feel like it should be there. So yeah, Charizard does some things that are actually pretty cool. It has a decent move pool. It has Air Slash, Fire Blast for stab. You can give it Dragon Pulse, Solar Beam, if you wanted to. Focus Blast, some people say, put that on there. But yeah, it does some decent things. And with Heavy Duty Boots, you can actually not worry about the thing that pretty much killed Charizard back in Gen 4, Gen 5, 6, and 7. And that is Stealth Rock. So this thing actually has stuff that it can do. Back when it had a Mega, it actually had 2 Megas. Game Freak loved this thing so much they were like, hey, we're going to give it 2 Megas. Mega Y was the special attacking one, and Mega X was the physical attacking one. I preferred Mega X just because it gained the Dragon type, which actually helped it out. I feel like Dragon Fire is a lot better than Fire Flying. But yeah, so with that in mind, you could run this as a physical set. Nowadays, you don't see that as often because, I mean, it doesn't have the best physical attack at 84. It's kind of got the Typhlosion problem. It's actually got, okay, this is a little bit of trivia. Typhlosion and Charizard have the exact same stat distribution. So, you know, what makes Charizard better is it's got a better move pool. It's got better, you know, range of moves that it can learn. And it does have a flying typing that gives it some things that it can do that Typhlosion can't. So yeah, really, Charizard's a really good Pokemon. So Inteleon is an interesting Pokemon. It's a new Pokemon. It's one that I haven't really used that often. So I'm trying to decide where I want to put it. I feel like it's a B tier Pokemon, maybe. I don't feel comfortable in putting it down here in the C's, and I don't know if it's good enough to put in the A's, so I'll stick it right there because it's got really good stats. I'll just stick it there, I guess. I don't know exactly where I would put it in the B tier, but I feel like that's okay. This thing's got a 120 speed and 125 special attack. So yeah, it's going to be doing one thing. And it's going to be trying to hit things hard with that special attack stat. And it does get some good move pull. U-turn for pivoting. But most people use Hydro Pump or even Snipe Shot. I like the idea of Snipe Shot because if you have... It gets the sniper ability. So if you do something with that, you can get some critical hits and it'll... I think it actually does more damage than a Hydro Pump. Choice Specs Hydro Pump. I think so. But with that, yeah, this thing is a really good Pokemon. But it just... The sad thing is there's so many, you know, good special sweepers that I feel like that might be what holds it back. I mean, that stat distribution is really good. It's got terrible defenses, though. Maybe that's what's holding it back. Because I don't see it as often as you think you would, you know? With a stat distribution like that. Because Rillaboom, you see those all the time. And even, you know, Cinderace, which we'll get to soon. You see those all the time, but you never see Inteleon. And I think that might be because of it's pretty frail. Whereas these two... We'll get to the Cinderace in a little bit, but yeah, this thing's very frail. So Primarina, which I really like Primarina. I feel like this is a B tier. It's better than Decidueye in those, and I would say it's better. I would say it's a good there. It might even be up to A tier. You know, I feel comfortable putting it in A tier. I feel like I need to put it in A tier because it does some really good things. So this is a Water Fairy type, which is a really cool typing. And it gets a really good range of move pull. So yeah, most people, you know, Moonblast, Hydro Pump for stab, but this thing also gets moves like Energy Ball. It also gets Psychic. Its signature move is Sparkling Aria, which does more damage if your opponent is burnt. I do remember that right. I think, no, it just cures it from burn. I thought it did more if it was burnt. Must have been thinking wrong. But anyway, Sparkling Aria is a pretty cool move. Scald, most people run Scald on it though. You know, to burn it. But yeah, most people I see put Choice Specs on it. And that's because this thing has a 126 special attack. And it's a very bulky Pokemon too, at 116 special defense. So most of the time when you see this thing, it's going to be there to take special hits and then hit back with its special attack. It's got a pretty interesting ability too, Liquid Voice. What that does is it basically any voice type, any voice move, like sound-based move, like Hyper Voice, will become a water type. And that's actually pretty good. It gives you a really strong water type move to use. So yeah, this thing is a really solid Pokemon. I feel like it has to be in the A tier. Blaziken. What do I say about Blaziken? This thing, it's up here somewhere. I don't know if I'm comfortable with it in S tier, but if it's in A tier, it's got to be the top A tier. It's got to be top out because it's way better. Okay, I feel like it's probably S tier because it does a lot of things good as well. This thing, okay, so this thing has really good attacking stats. It's got a 120 attack, 110 special attack, so you can run both. It's got an 80 speed, which isn't the best, but it's got one thing that actually remedies that, and that is its speed boost ability. So with speed boost, it's going to be picking up speed, and with that attack stat, it's going to be doing a lot of damage. And it does have it's one of the, you know, the triple fire fighting types that Pokemon, like Game Freak released in the middle of Pokemon's life cycle. So the other one being Emboar, which is probably the worst of the three. But Blaziken, I feel like that might be considered the best of three. And it does get some really good moves. It gets Swords Dance, which is really good with that. Oh, crazy! Oh, ooh, you don't want to get hit with that. Flare Blitz for your fire type move. You can do Blaze Kick too, and this is for a physical set. Close Combat, it gets Close Combat, which is really good. And it also gets Knockoff. Most people probably be using Knockoff. It gets Thunder Punch too. So if someone's like, I'm just going to throw out a water type, no, Blaziken does not care. Unless that water type happens to be the water type that came out, you know, the water starter in its own generation, but I digress. It also gets Stone Edge, which is pretty good, and it gets U-Turn. This is something that I do think I need to say about these pivot Pokemon, which there's actually a good number of pivot Pokemon now that weren't pivot Pokemon. I didn't really go into Swampert, but yeah, Swampert gets Flip Turn now, which is really great. I'm pretty sure this thing gets Flip Turn, the Primarina. This thing probably gets Flip Turn, but most people still run U-Turn, I feel like. Wonder why. Something I need to look into. Maybe it doesn't get Flip Turn. But yeah, pivot Pokemon are really good, and this thing being able to pivot is just really crazy to think about. Because it's got that speed boost. You want to keep that speed boost going, but, you know, if you have to switch it out, say someone sends out a Swampert, that just shuts down Blaziken, you can U-turn out, and you will be faster. So, yeah, U-turn is really good on Blaziken. But, yeah, you can also run Choice Band, which makes it that much more crazy. Yeah, so this thing is really good. And you can run a special set if you really want to. You could do Flamethrower. I don't know what fighting type move would you run at that point. Focus Blast, is that really the only thing that you'd run? Yeah, so it does not have Aura Sphere. It gets Aura Sphere. So yeah, this thing is very versatile. I didn't realize it even got Aura Sphere. You can also run High Jump Kick if you're like a gambling guy, a gambling girl, gambling person, but, you know, this thing is just very versatile. I feel comfortable with it in S tier. Cinderace. So Cinderace... Oh, let me... Oh, where am I at? But yeah, Cinderace is a really good Pokemon. This thing, I feel like it's got to be up here as well. Because it is so versatile. I feel hesitant in just sticking it up here because... But yeah, it's got to be up here. It's got to be up here because it does so many things. So it's got 119 speed, which is pretty fast. It's not touching Sceptile speed, but it is fast. 116 attack, which is also really good. But other than that, you know, the stats are kind of frail. It's not a good special attacker. You might be wondering, why is it up here? Well, there's one thing that puts it up here, and that is, I don't know how to pronounce this, but Libero. I think that's how you pronounce it. But yeah, it's basically got the Greninja treatment. Whatever attack you use, it's going to change its typing, and that is very, very good. Oh my gosh, yeah, I feel okay with it in S tier. Pyro Ball is what you're going to be your go-to, which is a insane physical fire type move. It's also a pivot Pokemon with U-turn. High Jump Kick, a lot of people run with that. And this, I mean, it looks like it could be a firefighting type, but it's just pure fire. But if you wish it was a firefighting type, put High Jump Kick on it. We could say it's a firefighting at that point. It also gets Zen Headbutt. So even Toxapex, who would normally just easily jump in on a fire type, is not jumping in on this thing. Also, it gets Gunk Shot. That's going to destroy fairies. But another thing it gets, which is really good, is Sucker Punch. You'll change your typing to Dark and get Stab on that. So yeah, this thing is up here in the S tier. It also has some support options like Court Change. I'm actually surprised I haven't seen that as often as I would, you'd think, because it does some good things in double. Say someone sets up Light Screen, you can steal that. Yeah, and Heavy Duty Boots actually helps it too. That's the really good thing about, you know, being a fire type in Gen 8. You don't have to worry about Stuff Rocks anymore. Venusaur is a good Pokemon. I say this thing's up here in A tier. Probably right here next to Empoleon. Yeah, it's probably higher than Empoleon. This thing has always been a good Pokemon. And I feel like, I mean, it's got the same problem as Meganium, but for some reason, this thing has stuff that makes it even with, you know, a similar stat distribution. It doesn't have anything higher than 100 in stats, but where it has its stats actually makes up for, you know, the same problem that Meganium has. This thing has 100 special attack and 100 special defense. So it can actually take a few hits. It's got 80 HP, so, I mean, it's not the greatest, but, you know, 100 special defense, that's good. 100 special attack, it's really good. What a lot of people run on this is going to be chlorophyll. And that's going to give you a nice speed boost in the sunlight. So yeah, this thing's really good. And another thing it's got that Meganium doesn't have is that poison typing. So Sludge Bomb, it can actually do a lot. A lot of people run Giga Drain on this thing, which is really good. A lot of people put Solar Beam on it because if you're using Chlorophyll, you're using this thing with the intent of setting up Sun. And with the Sun up, Solar Beam is a one-turn move. So yeah, this thing is really good with that. It also gets Earth Power now. I think that's a new thing that it gets. Yeah, I don't think it got Earth Power before that. So yeah, it's got a good ground type move that it can run with. And another thing that it gets, which I think is really cool, is Weather Ball. So in Gen 8, we've lost Hidden Power, but with Weather Ball, all these Pokemon that once had, you know, Fire Hidden Power as a moveset that they run, now it can just Weather Ball, and that really is helpful with your Venusaur because you're going to be using Sun anyway. I feel like, yeah, we'll just stick it right here because I feel like thinking about it, Swampert is up a little bit on these guys. But yeah, this thing can do a lot of stuff, and it also gets Growth. A lot of people put Growth on it. In the Sun, you're going to get more of a boost with using Growth, and this thing could sweep. But things that hold it back is that Grass typing, and its stats are kind of on the, you know, it's got the same problem as Meganium. Nothing breaks out of the 100. Back when this thing had a Mega, this thing was really good. It was one of the Megas that were used mostly for its bulkiness, and, you know, it's got a good special attack too, so it was like a tank. The Mega that you used if you wanted a Grass type tank. With Thick Fat, it just took Fire and Ice type. But yeah, this thing has been like a really good Pokemon ever since Gen 1. I don't think it really fluctuated too low in its tiering. Next up is Infernape, and this thing's got to be up here A tier. It's either high B or A, and I feel more comfortable with it in A tier because it does a few things, and it does those things pretty good. It's got 108 speed, and it's one of these other pivot Pokemon. Back in the day, this thing was mostly used as a like a lead. You'd send it out first, and then you turn out. This thing has a 104 attack, 104 special attack. So you can run either or if you want. You can surprise someone. You can use Nasty Plot to set stuff up. You know, a Fire Blast. Focus Blast 2, Vacuum Wave. Vacuum Wave is a priority fighting move, which is pretty good. Also, if you want a physical set, like I said, U-turn, close combat, Flare Blitz, and it also got Gunk Shot, so you could hit bulky fairies that tried to jump in on you. Yeah, so it did quite a few things. It also has Slack Off. I didn't realize it got Slack Off. That's interesting. Grass Knot is a common thing that people run on it as well. And if I remember right, it also got Stealth Rock. I didn't really say it on Empoleon, but yeah, Empoleon is a common Stealth Rocker. Yeah, Swampert. But this thing also got Stealth Rocks, which I think is interesting when a Pokemon you normally wouldn't think gets Stealth Rocks, gets Stealth Rocks. So yeah, Empoleon set up Stealth Rocks a lot. This thing also set up Stealth Rocks a lot. Looking at it, like, what makes this thing have Stealth Rocks and something like Typhlosion not get Stealth Rocks? Like, I don't understand that. But it used Stealth Rocks. It was often a lead type Pokemon. And yeah. Also, in the name of hazards, Greninja also is a hazard setter too, often like spikes and toxic spikes. I don't think it didn't get Stealth Rocks, but with toxic spike it could do some work too. But yeah, Infernape did a lot of stuff. It was really good, really versatile. Most people could run it as like a lead with Stealth Rocks, or they can run it as a special attacker, physical attacker, and that's why it's found a way up here in the A tier. So yeah, this Pokemon here is also a really good Pokemon. I feel like it's kind of fallen out in VGC, even though at one time this thing was the king of VGC. It was actually up there more than Landorus. I feel like it's an A tier Pokemon as well. Yeah, because this thing, it's got a pretty good typing. It looks like it should be a firefighting type, you know, with, you know, all these firefighting types, but no, this is Fire Dark, which is a really cool typing. And it's got 115 attack, which is really good. And it's got good bulk, too. 95 HP. That is a good bulky Pokemon. 90 defenses. Yeah, this thing was able to take hits, and it was able to dish out hits. And a thing that also helped it out in taking hits was Intimidate. So you send this thing out and intimidate a physical attacker, and you're going to be living some hits that, you know, normally would take this thing out. And that's why it was a VGC staple back in, you know, Gen 7. Because of its Intimidate and how bulky it was. And this thing does get some pretty good moves. Darkest Lariat. Say your opponent tries to set up defenses with Iron Defense or something. Incineroar does not care about that. You can also run Knockoff, and you get Stab on Knockoff too, which is good. Flare Blitz. Flare Blitz is the most common Fire-type move that people run in this. I've seen a few people run a Flamethrower if they want to use a special set, but special side, it's only got 80 special attacks, so I would say physical attack's way better. I've also seen people run this as a bulky set that's meant to set up Will-O-Wisp, which is pretty cool to see. And it's also a pivot Pokemon too with U-Turn. And if you've got a bulky Pokemon as your U-Turner that also learns Will-O-Wisp, that's a really good Pokemon to send out there and U-Turn with. So I think, yeah, Incineroar is a really good Pokemon. Now we're down here, and we are looking at Superior. So I feel like Superior should be in the B tier, high B tier, so we'll just... Yeah, I like that. So Superior has a 113 speed. It is a pretty fast Pokemon. And 95 in both defenses. So looking at it, you might be wondering, well, what made this a really decent Pokemon? Well, there's one thing, even though it has a 75 special attack, there's one thing that brought this thing up from, you know, back in Black and White, this thing would be down here because it was terrible back then. But now it's up here, and that one thing that brought it up here is Contrary. So say you put Leaf Storm on this. Normally Leaf Storm will lower your special attack 2 stages. Not with Contrary. It's going to be raising that special attack. So what people would do with this thing, they would send it out there, go for a Leaf Storm, and just go hog wild with this thing. And wow, this thing could really pull it off. It also gets some other options too, like Dragon Pulse for coverage. A lot of people put Leech Seed on this, and that's because it's got some decent bulk to it. Leech Seed just helped it out in that survivability. It also gets Glare, which Glare is a really good Pokemon. I mean, it is a fast Pokemon, but Glare is a very good utility move, and a lot of people did that too. Leech Seed, Glare. They would use Substitute too, which would be kind of annoying for your opponent after you glared them. But yeah, if you saw this thing, there was one move it was going for, and that was Leaf Storm. More than likely, it wasn't going for anything else but Leaf Storm. This thing also got Defog, which back in Gen 7, a lot of Pokemon that didn't get Defog before ended up getting Defog. So that was another utility thing. So this Pokemon had the moveset of a utility Pokemon, but an ability that turned it into a special sweeper. And it could do both pretty well. So even if you saw this thing and it had Defog, Leech Seed, Glare, that Leaf Storm was still going to probably take stuff out if you didn't have something to bring out in the face of it. So yeah, Superior is up here in B tier. I feel like the thing that holds it back is, you know, the move that it had to run with was a grass type move. There's a lot of things that can switch in on a grass type move. If you have this thing set up special attack wise, there's nothing coming in, but you had to set it up first, and you had to hit stuff that wasn't going to take you out the next turn. Blastoise, I want to put in the B tier as well. We'll just stick them right there. This is a pretty cool Pokemon. It's got some really good bulk at 100 defense, 105 special defense. So yeah, this is a really good Pokemon too in that regard. And move pool wise, you know, most people would run this as a rapid spinner. I feel like that's what most people ran with this. It gets the ability Rain Dish, so if it's raining, it's going to be healing up. And it gets Scald. You can burn things. Rapid Spin is probably going to be your main go-to. But yeah, this thing's also now a pivot because it gets Flip Turn, which is really cool. And it actually has a good variety of special attacking moves. In Gen 6, they gave this thing a Mega with the Mega Launcher ability. Which what that did was pulse moves would get a boost in damage. So they ended up giving it different pulse moves like Dark Pulse, Dragon Pulse. Even though now it no longer has that ability that it can go to, it is still got those moves, which is really good move pool wise. And now it also gets Shell Smash, which lowers its defenses, boosts its speed, and its special attack. And that is really good for this thing because of that special type coverage. You can run it as like a defensive utility, like defensive rapid spinner, or you can try to get a Shell Smash and just sweep up. And I like that idea. But yeah, I feel like it's a B tier because it can do two things. It doesn't do both. It doesn't do those like extraordinary, but it can do those things, and you could probably get some good wins. If Blastoise had its Mega in Gen 8, though, this thing would probably be up here because that Mega is so bulky. And after you do the Shell Smash, you know, it's going to have a lot of special attack, and it's going to be pretty fast, and it's just going to demolish things with that Mega Launcher ability. So this thing is just waiting for its Mega to return. The last Pokemon is going to be Chestnut. I do like Chestnut. I did use this thing quite a bit in, you know, online battles. But I feel like even though I like it, I feel like it's probably in the C tier. It has really good defense at 122. It's got 107 attack, which is good. 88 HP is decent. But everything else is kind of on the lower side. It doesn't have any special defense, really, that's going to help it out. But it does have a grass fighting typing. That's not good if you're facing a flying type. But that is an interesting typing there. Most of the time you saw this thing, it was going to be like something that set up spikes. And it does get Spiky Shield. What Spiky Shield does is it's like a Protect where... what's a presentation mode? Sorry, it's a Protect that the opponent actually takes damage if they come into contact with that Spiky Shield. So... I mean, this thing has got some stuff that it can do, and I've used this. It's taken some surprising hits, but yeah, it does those things pretty well. The defensive mon, it can set up spikes, Drain Punch. I ran Drain Punch on this thing because it helped keep my Chestnut alive. Also gets Synthesis, which is helpful too. But yeah, this thing is mostly meant for defensive play, and I feel like it is a little bit better for Alligator, because for Alligator, it does good Dragon Dance, but there's a lot of things that do better Dragon Dance, like Gyarados. But this thing, it had a pretty decent niche. So, looking at this tier list, I do feel pretty good with where all the Pokemon ended up. I do feel like this one should be up here, actually. Yeah, I do like that better. But anyway, if you like this, if you agree with this tier list, let me know. Put down in the comments that you agree. If you have a differing an opinion, if there's a Pokemon, like if you think Meganium should be up here in S tier, and you really think you can like argue that, go ahead and put that in the comments. Go ahead, you know, just let me know what Pokemon. If you think I was a little too, you know, lenient on Primarina, and you think Primarina should be down in the D tier, go ahead and let me know. I just want to hear your opinions on this, because like I said, this is sort of my opinion. I do feel like I am pretty decent at battling, so I know some of these Pokemon where they would fall in like a tier list. And this is just my personal tier list on how good they are. But anyway, let me know where your tier list sits. Let me know which Pokemon out of all these should be up here at S tier. Let me know that. If you like this, give a thumbs up, subscribe. I will see you in the next Pokemon video.